What are you seeing as you watch Justin Fields this year in the pocket?
Oh, that is a question that we don't have long enough time to answer today. I will say,
We got
like, I
some
just
time.
want you guys to know, like, I took a lot of notes, okay, and because I wanted to understand what was going on with that Chicago offense. And for me, it like the whole story and the whole narrative is that Justin's taking a lot of sacks. And it's been a lot of these sacks where he's had 4+ seconds to hold on to the football. Everyone saw the viral tweet go out yesterday. It's like, hey, he's taking the most sacks over since 2021 or whenever he came in the league, that he's had 4 more seconds to throw the ball. And to me, I wanted to like sort of figure out, is it him holding the ball? Is it him not getting through progressions? Is it him trying to make something that isn't there? And what I found, at least in the Buccaneers game, was he took 6 of them. Okay. And he took 6 sacks in 55 plays. And to me, it's like he doesn't know, he's not sure when the play is over. And sometimes what does that mean? Well, it means that, listen, if you're an offensive coordinator, I'm Luke Getsy, and I'm trying to call a play, and I call a play that's against supposed to be a cover 2 defense, and they show cover 3 in that play. Well, the play's probably not that good. Like, if I'm a quarterback, I'm going to try to make it work, and I'm going to throw the ball away. To me, it seems like he's just standing in the pocket, and it's not like it's not like it's the offensive line's fault. I mean, there's a few times that of those 6, maybe 2 I have down, that offensive line got beat early and he had nowhere to go. The other 4 were just like, hey, one's not open, sort of scramble around and try to like make something happen, and he just gets sacked. And to me, it's like, just know when the play's over, and you got to learn how to be able to dirt the ball. You got like a throwaway, and I'm sure they're preaching this, guys. Like, look, like, I never want to go into any segment because I played the game, and quarterback is the most difficult position in all of sports to play. Like, it's not even close. It's not even close. And what I think he can continue to get better on is just progressing through reads. And that's something that we saw a lot against the Buccaneers, was number one in the progression might not be open, and that's okay. That happens. But I just want to see him build upon this week's performance going into next week's against Chiefs. Like, if one isn't open, get to 2 quickly and hit and complete it. And if 2 isn't there, there's like 3 or 4 things. I'm looking at my notes, like 3 or 4 plays where number 3 in the progression is pretty open and he's just not getting through the read. That's pretty much what I saw.
We're talking to Chase Daniel here, Parkins Spiegel on the score. You said 2 answers ago that, 95% of the time you would know where you were throwing before you snap the ball. Can Luke Getsy say that in his headset? Here's the play call, look for the X. Look for DJ Moore. Here's the play call. If it's this defense, it's probably going to be a check down. Like, can it be that fed to him?
Well, I don't know if you want it that fed to him. I don't think that's not real ball. What is real ball is that when you're practicing base plan on Wednesday, okay, so they're all installing tomorrow. The Bears will go in and they'll install their base down. So first and second downs, all the runs, all the 3-step drop, 5-step, 7-step play action, bootleg game, all that game will be installed. And it's a good bit of stuff. And it really comes down to the teaching of those plays. Like, hey, Justin, on this play, this is what we're thinking on against cover 3. This is what we're thinking on 4. And if it's a man play, you just gotta make something work, take off and run, like stuff like that. And I'm sure it's getting installed that way. Because every offense I have has been like, hey, we always want to make sure that you have an answer no matter what happens. And there's going to be some plays where it's just like, man, that we didn't talk about this. They haven't shown this pressure. They haven't shown this look in ages. And I think that's probably, like, at least like for me, that's what I wanted to build my career off of, was like preparing and planning as long as humanly possible until I got the entire game plan down, that I had no issues whatsoever on Sundays if a defense did something different than I thought they would, if that makes sense.
You talked about him not going through the progressions, and what we've heard mostly about Fields from the people who have doubted him for a couple of years and are, of course, newly emboldened this year, is that, quote, he just doesn't see it, unquote. or that quick trigger decision of being a, quote, anticipatory passer, unquote, where you see people make decisions and throw it quickly before a guy's out of their break and just kind of know what it's going to be. And the question is, can you learn that, Chase? Is that something that a quarterback in the NFL can actually learn from game to game, year to year? We've lived through a lot of people trying, and we don't
literally
know,
have never been successful.
and we've never seen it actually happen.
I would say that there's a feel thing to playing quarterback, but I would say that it can be learned, and it can be learned by experience. The more experience you get, the more looks you see on defense. You're just building this catalog in your brain, right? As a quarterback of, hey, like, it might not be what we practice for, but I remember that play. Hey, they ran against us in 2021 against Philly. Like, hey, this is what Minnesota did. Like, on the sideline, there's got to be that talk. And I'm not saying that he's not learning it. I would just say that the process that he's going through, it just looks a little slow, in my opinion. But the thing is, guys, like, it's there. Like, it is there, because you look at the first drive, the first play of the game, amazing, like, on time, off heavy play action. It's an 8-man pro. They throw a dagger in route to DJ Moore for 35. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a fun game to watch. Like, this dude is rolling. And on the same series, he hit DJ Moore in a little flat route, a little out route. But what I liked about it is he stood in the pocket. It wasn't protected because they brought, like, different pressure, and they just wasn't protected. He stood in there, knew where his hot throw was, threw it on the sideline, and it was awesome. And they ended up scoring that drive, and that was 7 plays. And that was the first drive. They got one drive in the first quarter. One drive. They got 22 snaps in the first half and only 55 plays in the entire game. If it's me, like, I'm getting 7 plays in the first quarter, like, I want to get into a rhythm. If I'm having 7 plays as a quarterback in one quarter of an NFL game to only, like, feel comfortable to get rolling and stuff, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, he never really found a rhythm in the first half.
All right, so Chase, there's like 100 things I want to ask you, but we obviously don't have all of that time. But so, like, why isn't he running? What happened to Justin Fields, the runner? It can't just be teams are playing zone and watching him.
Yeah, I would say Tampa pressured him a lot. And a lot more than probably what they must have seen something that, hey, if we do this, we can do that. And they got 6 sacks. So you best damn well be sure that the Chiefs are going to be pressuring them. And Steve Spagnuolo, they're a double-edged pressure team. Like, they're gonna light them up, man. And they got to have a good answer for it. And my question, or my answer, I mean, is I don't know. Like, I don't know, because you look at last year, and because I kept up with them because I'm just a fan in general of Chicago and the Bears and Eber and Fields. Really, I had really good combos with him, and I kept up with him last year while I was doing NFL Network. And I remember we had a Monday night game that I was actually watching, and it was against New England. Everyone remembers the New England game, and it seemed to me, I don't know what week that was, 5 or 6, but it seemed to me like the first 3 or 4 weeks of that season, it was sort of looking like this, like I formation offense, 2 tight ends, 2 backs, like not spread it out. And all of a sudden, like, there was a light bulb that went off in Getsy's mind, like, let's just unleash this guy. And then he started playing really, really well. And I thought the Patriots game was a big step for them offensively last year, to make that next step. And what I've seen this year so far is sort of going back to what they were in the beginning of last year, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I'm not in those meetings, and I understand there's going to be criticism from people, and that comes with the job. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple zone read plays where he could have pulled it but handed it, and I mean, but not a lot of just called QB runs this past game.
So 3 screenplays in a row, it ends with a pick 6. There are plays where DJ Moore and Kmet seem to be running into each other. You just, like, kind of scratch the surface of it with Getsy in the system. Like, are they helping him? Or do you know, like, can you help us figure out what the plan is or the goal is of this offense? Because it doesn't seem to, like, be catered to what Justin Fields has shown that he's good at.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think it's too early. I mean, it is too early to tell. It's only 2 games in, and I know they haven't started well, whatever, but there's still a lot of time. And I tell people this all the time. I said it earlier in my podcast today, is like, on offense in the National Football League, you really do not know who you are until like week 4, 5, 6. Like, identity as an offense, you're trying new things, they might not work. You're trying this, it might not work. Like, even some of the best, like the best offense I was ever on was 2011 Saints team, and we were rolling. I mean, I think we averaged 30 points a game. I mean, we set record amount of yards. Drew passed for a ton of yards, and we didn't really feel like who we were until like the 4th or 5th game. I think we started 2-2, then rolled off 12 straight. So it just takes time. It takes process. And it, honestly, these offseason rules aren't doing offenses any justice, because there's not enough time to get into rhythm, to get into offense, to do all this stuff. I think it's been a regression across the league in offenses, and I think that's why defenses are so much more ahead right now.
That's really interesting. Last thing, Chase, we talked to a teammate of his who gave voice to something we've been kicking around, which is that Justin seems like he might be a little bit in between, deciding what to do, deciding whether to run, be himself, or going through the reads. With that as the backdrop, want to ask you about first down with 3 minutes and 24 seconds left before they settle for the 52-yard field goal. And I'm sure you noticed this one and saw it, where DJ Moore is open on the left flat and his hands are in the air like, hey, I'm right here. But Roschon Johnson is running down the seam on the right side and is wide open in the end zone. And Fields is looking straight ahead and ends up running into a sack in the middle of the offensive line. And we've all been wondering what he might be thinking on that play.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the play, and it's easy to be Monday morning quarterback, or in this setting, Tuesday morning quarterback. But I did see, like, that was one of the things that I had written down, was like, the dude is wide open, like, gotta have it. What I think he saw, and I can't be for sure because I'm not in his head. What I think he saw was the seam route up the middle of the field that is just wide open. Like, first of all, amazing play design by Getsy. Like, give it to him because he had guys wide open. What I think he saw was the seam route runner got banged up a little bit, and it took like a second more to get through. And then once he was through to that second level, the safety took the other seam, and there was nobody at all covering the seam. And sometimes as a quarterback, like, I can only speak from experience, right? I can't speak what he was seeing. But if I'm going back and I see a play that maybe we've practiced all week that's supposed to be open right away, and I'm supposed to throw it right away, and all of a sudden the vision just gets a little bit blurry. Like, at times as a backup, like, I'm off of it just on my next read. And I think for him, like, on these deeper developing routes down the field, if stuff doesn't look right away, sometimes he can get off of it. And sometimes that's how I was too. But if you just give it a half second more, man, they got a huge touchdown right there.
Chase Daniel, check out his podcast with our guy Robert Mays over at The Athletic, and he's going to be a part of our show every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and he's kind enough to join us for our YouTube stream and our Twitch audience on video as well. Chase, man, Chiefs and Bears, we'll do this same time next week. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Thanks, Chase. Let's go do one at his place in San Diego.
That's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah, we should have said that to him.
Take
the invite.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I mean, he can't